So welcome back now to Live from Paris. It's time for Campaign Chronicles. Just 5 days to go. You'd be forgiven for thinking that French voters, they must know by now who they want to be their next president, but not so, apparently. Polls say that plenty of them still have not made up their minds. For more on this, I'm joined by Elena Casas. Elena, why on earth can't they decide then?
Well, it's 22% of them, according to Le Parisien. These are voters who say they definitely are going to vote, but they still don't know for whom. Now, the paper talks to a number of these people, lots of whom come up with the same things over and over again. I don't feel represented by any of the candidates. They're not talking about the issues that I'm interested in. Even though I'm disappointed in Sarkozy, I'm not inspired by any of the other candidates. So quite damning verdicts on the candidates themselves and their policies, really failing to inspire and impassion voters there, something we've been talking about a lot, of course, in recent weeks, well, the last couple of weeks at least, when we've had all those polls saying turnout's going to be really low. But even among people who say they definitely will vote, so they feel some kind of democratic obligation, these people are not inspired enough to actually be able to choose a particular candidate. Now, the candidates are, of course, multiplying their strategies to try and win these people over and make them convinced that they should vote for them in particular. Sarkozy is appealing to them by talking to what he calls the silent majority. That's become his new campaign slogan in the last week or so, if you like. People who never have their voices heard, he reckons he's speaking up for them. Marine Le Pen's got a new advertising campaign directly aimed at the undecided, trying to tell them why she's the only person it's useful to vote for because all the others are all the same. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left candidate, he's betting on an internet strategy. His team is spending a lot of time on their social networking strategy, trying to win over young people that way, bring them out to the polls by sending them things via Facebook and Twitter and so on. And François Hollande's socialists have gone back to perhaps the most old-fashioned strategy, going around and knocking on people's doors. They've got tens of thousands of activists out across the country who are in teams going around, knocking on your door and trying to get you to come out and vote for François Hollande. Now, over in Le Monde, they've actually looked at who these undecided people are, and they interestingly say in a poll that a great more young people than older people are undecided, more people on low incomes are undecided, which kind of sums up what we've been saying about the polls for quite a while, that it's those voters that are the least likely to come out and vote. They're the ones that have been least talked to by the candidates. And interestingly, it's people who would position themselves in the centre of politics who are most likely to say they haven't decided. Maybe that's because François Bayrou, the centrist candidate's campaign's not doing very well. People who might otherwise have voted for him are now feeling a bit more vague.
Now, you said undecided voters say that the candidates aren't talking about the issues they want to talk about. So what are the issues they do want to talk about?
Well, Libération has flagged up 5 on its front page that they think the candidates haven't talked about enough and we should be talking about more. So they're poverty, the environment, the care system, justice and health. So on things like poverty, they reckon there's 8.2 million French people living below the poverty line, and none of the candidates have really got any policies that will really help deal with that. The health system is another big one. There's a massive cash deficit in France's famously generous health system, or just about every solution to deal with that is going to be electorally unpleasant to the French. They don't want to pay more contributions into it or get less free healthcare out of it. But some of the candidates have got to do something because the gap is so big financially, but none of them really have any concrete proposals. I went out to see what French voters then think should be done about their health system.
Don't touch our social security is clearly the message the French want their presidential candidates to hear. And they're particularly attached to their health system. You'll see the French know how lucky they are, but also that their system is under threat.
We have to keep things in proportion. We are in a very spoiled country. We have access to healthcare. You can wait a very long time for hospital treatment, but we do get care.
I'm not sure we should pay more contributions just to be more responsible. In France, people don't behave better unless they're punished, so should we punish people who go to the doctor all the time?
Well, if you want to see the best specialist, that costs extra, so you need good insurance. So if you're unemployed, you can't afford good insurance. You don't really have the same system as the privileged.
That's the problem, the cost of care, that in the eyes of this expert really worries the French.
We can't talk about access to healthcare as if it were the same for everyone. Really, we have a two-speed system. We can't honestly say everyone has access to care. Last year, 36% of people said they hadn't had treatment for a problem because they couldn't afford it. There's really a bigger and bigger gap. That's what worries the French.
28% of the French think socialist François Hollande is the best man to protect their social system. 24% say the same of incumbent President Nicolas Sarkozy, and 14% picked left-wing candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
Elena Casas, good to see you out and about as well. Elena Casas there on France 24. Thanks a lot. That's today's Campaign Chronicles. Now, just to remind you of the main story today, the man accused of killing 77 people in bomb and gun attacks in Norway last summer. He's back in court once again. This is Anders Behring Breivik, of course. He's due to take the stand a little bit later on the second day of his trial in Oslo. His lawyer's saying he's going to read out a prepared statement. Now, after a brief restart around about an hour ago, in fact, the trial was suspended for half an hour whilst they decided if one of the judges should be removed from the court as they commented on Facebook straight after the shooting. So we're still waiting to hear exactly what the latest is on that, whether that judge is going to be suspended or not. But Anders Behring Breivik back in court once again in Oslo. We will continue, of course, to follow that story during the day here on France 24. Jeannie has the latest headlines for you really shortly. Stay with us.